Have you ever felt like no matter what you do, you're always the one who gets blamed? The family argument, somehow it's your fault. The workplace mistake, you're an easy target. The relationship problems, you're the villain. And deep down, a part of you is wondering, why does this keep happening to me? What if I told you this isn't just bad luck, but an actual pattern? One that might have been programmed into you since childhood. See, actually being scapegoated doesn't mean that you're the real problem. It means you're the solution to somebody's inability to deal with their own emotions. Let's break this down. So a scapegoat is the one in a family, a team, even society, who is unconsciously chosen to carry the blame for things going wrong. The scapegoater doesn't have the emotional tools to handle their own feelings. So what they do is they project their own guilt, frustration, and fear onto you. The person or the unit that has chosen this scapegoat doesn't have the emotional tools to handle their own feelings or emotions. So they project their own guilt, frustration and fear onto you, my friend. And here's the worst part. If this happened to you as a child, you may have learned to accept the role, and you may often feel like you deserve the blame, and it takes a lot for you to actually realise that you weren't to blame. But let's flip this around. What if it was never about you? And I have been somebody that's actually gone through this. I've also worked with other people that have been stuck in this cycle as well. And you know what's really fascinating? The scapegoat is almost always the most self-aware, emotionally intelligent and strong person in the group. So that is why they've been chosen, because they can handle the burden. They've got something that the people that scapegoat them want, and they're never going to have. So that's the trap, basically. You've been conditioned to be the emotional punching bag, but you don't have to keep playing this role, even though you may have just gone in cycles because it was something that was perhaps bred into you when you were younger. You've just gone and perpetuated this cycle, and you maybe continually make mistakes but don't really know why, and it kind of fits you into that model. And instead of probably being helped by people, you just get pushed further into a corner, which makes you then sort of reinvent this scapegoat role again and again and again, and possibly even in workplace environments as well, until you come to that realization. And romantic relationships as well, it's all linked. And if you do realize this and you don't do anything about it, then the cost of doing nothing, you can just keep attracting these relationships where you're the only one taking the blame, even though it's not your fault. You start believing that false story, you're difficult or you're not enough as well. That can be a real massive thing until you actually understand that that's not your role, and you carry the guilt that was never yours to begin with. And I do a lot of talking about generational trauma and dysfunctional families. So imagine you just carrying on. I mean, there's some people that I've worked with that are in their 60s and only just coming to this realization, and they've lived their whole life thinking that they are the problem and not realizing that they've been born into this really dysfunctional family, been given this role of the scapegoat. So it wouldn't matter even if they were the King of England, they would still be blamed for something by their dysfunctional family. That role doesn't change because that family has no emotional intelligence in the slightest. What is the first step to actually get out of that role of being the scapegoat? So the first step is actual awareness. If you're here, if you're watching this, chances are you've become aware. So what I want you to do is start asking yourself some questions as you start off on this awareness journey. So start asking yourself, whose guilt am I carrying? Whose is it? It's definitely not yours. You can go back and look through probably historical relationships in your family where this kind of thing has probably happened to other people as well, and then it just fell onto your shoulders. So take a look at that if you can. And what happens when you do stop explaining yourself? What happens when you perhaps pull yourself away from that toxic dynamic for a short time? What happens then? And how does it feel when I no longer accept blame for things beyond my control? Just think about that for a minute, because you probably, if you've been the scapegoat, I can tell you now, you've probably accepted blame for things that definitely weren't your fault because you've been gaslit into believing that they were. So just think to yourself, how does it feel when I'm no longer accepting blame? You can choose not to accept it, even if they give it. If any of this has hit home for you, if you spent years wondering why you're always the one that's taking the fall, even when it's not your fault, it is time to start rewriting your story. So let me know in the comment if you're ready to break free from this cycle, and let's dive deeper into this together. You don't have to be the scapegoat anymore, and I've got other ways of helping you heal. So let me know in the comments if this is something you can resonate with, if this video has been helpful. Really appreciate it. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.